Thank you for coming to Guy Talks here. I'm excited for this time with you and with Tom Smithwick from Freedom Store. But before we get into the discussion today, which will be on addiction, I want to talk a little bit about who is Guy Talks, what are we about, what are we doing? So Guy Talks, the story very simply is back, I had a relationship season in my life. And of course, when you're in these seasons, any guy or any person has their ups and downs during those seasons, and you get into conversations and whatnot. And I just realized I was going through that season. Other guys were sharing various, seasons that they were in, and there wasn't much in the community or in their my and other guys' circles that they can connect and with other guys to sort of like walk through those seasons. So you're not alone. You're united. You have that support system in place. And I kind of sat on the bench, for a little while, as I was just going through my own journey and just kind of like looking onto the world and seeing how things are unraveling. And then later on, a guy in my group, his business wasn't doing that great. He was going through a divorce, and sadly, his escape was to commit suicide. And then that's when it kind of really hit me hard. And I decided that no longer did I want to sit on the bench, but I want to get in the action to try to prevent these things from happening moving forward in guys' lives. Guys need those support. What can I do? I've been given some gifts of marketing and sales. So I decided to put that together. As you can see here at the logo, I sat on my couch, put together the flame, because I recognize that in these seasons, sometimes a guy's flame is maybe low or non-existing. And we want to help guys get the support to rebuild that flame, because a season, as in its definition, has a start and an end. It comes and goes, but you need that support. So that was really important. And then I thought about, how are we going to connect the dots on this? And this is the slogan: connect, grow, and thrive. So we wanted to create a space, which we do once a month, every month, where guys can come and connect, and then they can grow. So we have an educational piece every single time. And the one we're talking about today with Tom is going to be on addiction. So they learn about that part of life and get educated so they can understand what that means to them, what that means to people around them. And then when they have that education, knowledge is power, right? So the thriving part is when they go back into their community or into their home or into their workplace, that they're going to thrive a little bit better because they've shown up once a month to this Guy Talk event where they're getting educated and they're growing. So that's a little bit about where Guy Talk sort of evolved and came from and where we are. I also want to do a shout out to the Cott Group for supporting this. John Cott is a phenomenal entrepreneur, family man, leader. I work alongside them at the Genesis dealership, and they have come along and they support the food part of every event that we do. And make sure when you come, guys, the tickets are free, and guess what? You get some food. So, I mean, who doesn't like to enjoy some delicious food as you meet amazing guys and then you learn something? So it's a really great environment, and we couldn't do it if it wasn't for the Cott family and the Cott Group, Auto Group, for helping us along that way. So very excited to mention them. So yeah, we're going to dive in right now, and I want to introduce you to Tom Smithwick. Hi, Tom. Thanks for joining us today at our Guy Talk session. And this is, we already had the event, Tom. It went phenomenal. I got amazing feedback. Your story is powerful. The statistics are powerful. The young man you brought just delivered a home run, really touched the hearts of guys there. I even saw a couple of tears in some of the eyes. It's just really moving. So maybe share a little bit with the audience, sort of, you know, how did Freedom's Door come into existence?
Well, let me start by saying I really enjoyed going to the Guy Talks event, and you know, there was 40, 50 guys there, just enjoying one another's company and communicating and real easily. So it was an event that I didn't know about until going that first time, and I recommend it because I really enjoyed it a lot. So good on you for doing this.
Thank you.
Freedom Store, how did this start? It's a bit of a long story, but maybe there's an importance in hearing the story of how things start,
100%.
because there's a reason why things start. And sometimes you don't even realize, okay, what am I being asked here? But then you find out much later. And that's turns into a really good thing.
It certainly does.
So it started by, I was the guest speaker at the Mayor's Leadership Prayer Breakfast in 2002.
Okay.
That was May. And I gave a talk, and the talk was on respect, responsibility, and reconciliation. That was the discussion.
Nice.
And so about 2 weeks after that event, a guy phoned me at my office. I was a lawyer, so I had a law office, and I was having my day, and somebody calls and says, "Hi, my name is Fred, and you don't know me, but I happen to attend that talk that you gave at that breakfast. And I'm an addict. I went onto the street when I was 14. I got off the street when I was 40. I went into a recovery home," he told me, in Vancouver.
Okay.
And I went through the recovery program. I then volunteered. I then became an employee at the recovery home. And I did that for 7 years.
Right.
So he was 47 at that point.
Yes.
In May of 2002.
Right.
He got married during that period of time. He went down to Mexico to have a holiday, and he relapsed in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And then on coming back to Vancouver, he went to his boss and said, "This is what happened. I relapsed." And he was instantly fired.
Right.
And
it's heavy.
And I sort of questioned exactly how it was handled, but that's not my business. So he told me this. And so he actually left Vancouver with his tail between his legs, feeling shame and guilt and all of those things.
Heavy.
And he went to Kelowna.
Right.
Where he didn't know anybody.
Right.
So here he saw this event being held. He attended. And 2 weeks later, he's phoning a total stranger saying, "I can't stay sober unless I have an accountability partner," he called it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Would it be you?
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about recovery, but," and he said, "I won't be a bother. You know, we get together once a month and have coffee, and that's it. And I got somebody I can talk to." And I said, "Okay, well, why don't you come tomorrow? We'll have a coffee. You come at 11 o'clock. And he did. So in comes this guy at 11 the next day. Big guy, gray ponytail, a little rough around the edges, but very charismatic, very intelligent, very outgoing, very real.
Right, yeah.
Open in his discussion, clearly. Yeah. I mean, courageous, clearly, also.
Yeah, right.
So when he comes in, we sit down and we have coffee and we talk for about an hour. And then we got together every week thereafter, actually. Had lunch, had coffee, whatever. And then in August of that year, he said, "I've been asked to take over what was supposed to be a safe house for street people, and it's turned into a crack shack."
Okay.
So I've been asked if I'd take it over and maybe turn it into a safe house again and maybe a recovery home.
Right.
So he said he was going to do it. And he said, "Do you want to get involved in this?" And I said, "Well, I don't really know much about this, but okay."
Yeah, why not? Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that on September 1 of 2002, I walked up at 7:45 in the morning, stairs of a terrible place, dirty, above a deli place.
Yeah.
3 bedrooms, 10 guys living there in former not recovery are still there. There's 3 bedrooms. One's an office. 2 of them have 5 guys in each bedroom. Light bulbs hanging down because the ceiling leaks, flies everywhere because there's no screens on the windows. I mean, it was not good.
Yeah.
But, you know, I felt
it wasn't inviting.
It wasn't inviting.
No.
But I felt amazingly and instantly as the guys are sitting in a circle and talking and doing the proverb of the day and discussing its importance and wisdom, I felt immediately at ease. And I'm with Hell's Angels enforcers and drug dealers and whatever.
You're in the real.
And it was very, very comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I kept going back. And about a month later, I said to Fred, you know, we can't stay like this. I mean, this is awful. This is not prideful. So if we're going to do this, then we got to form a society. We got to get a board of directors. We got to get proper financing. We've got to have a registered society, a charitable number, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, well, you do all that. I'll do the recovery part.
Right.
And I said, okay, so this is seriously going to try to do something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I went and asked 7 friends who were in, actually, most of them were in a group, men's group I was already in. And do you want to get involved in doing something about this? Because back in early 2000, in the media once a month, there's talk about something's got to be done about all these guys sleeping on the street downtown and back alleys and so on. We got to move them out of downtown. Well, move them where?
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's not a solution to move people. The solution is finding a real recovery.
Yeah, exactly.
And healing for people.
Address the problem.
Right. And there wasn't anything like that in Kelowna for men.
Yeah.
And so here suddenly it was beginning. Now, it was a beginning with a bunch of board of directors who didn't know anything about it.
Right.
But Fred had experience in it and brought material with him for it.
Makes sense, yeah.
And it began there in that very simple way. And it was amazing what happened from then on in for 23 years.
Yeah, long time, long run.
Long run.
Still going.
Still going.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, if we got the time in the beginning of this story, I'll tell you that there was another phone call that occurred in 1981.
Okay.
So now I'm going to take you all the way back to 1981.
Yeah, 81. Here we go. Yeah.
And I'm in my I'm in my office again.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there. And I was also at the time on city council.
Okay.
So I was in the media quite a bit.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot.
So I got a phone call and the lady says, hello, Mr. Smithwick. I'm calling because my name is Erna Grip and you don't know me, but I'm just calling and letting you know that I'm praying for you.
Okay. Yeah,
and I said, okay, I don't get a call like that every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how many people do?
That's a little bit spontaneous.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay. And I said, so why are you doing that? And she said, well, because I read about you in the paper and I'm an elderly woman who's infirm and I don't get out a lot.
Yes.
So my mission in life is to call people that I happen to choose and let them know that I'm praying for them and for their success and for whatever the reason might be.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, well, that's kind of cool. You know?
Yeah, that's a coincidence.
Yeah, okay. So, and then we talked for a while and she said, would you like to come over for tea?
Right.
So I said, okay. So Thursday afternoon, I went for tea and was met by Agnes Grip, the daughter who took care of the mother at her home. Yeah. And I kept going back once a month for the next 18 years until Mama Grip died.
Right.
And she died in the late 1990s.
Okay.
And I linked that in, and I'll bring you back to Freedom Store in 2002 now again.
Right. Okay.
Where I'm saying we can't stay here because this place isn't.
You can't grow.
Prideful.
Yeah, or it's not the right spot. Yeah.
And I saw in the newspaper at that time a story about a recovery home for women that was closing down due to a union battle.
Okay.
And so a buddy and I, who was one of the directors, we went over and we knocked on the door and said, and a lady answered, we said, we understand that this place is closing down. Yes.
Right.
The staff have all been let go and the ladies who were here are all gone. And we said, well, what's happening with this place? And she said, well, we're selling it. And we've got 7 offers so far to buy it. It was a former side-by-side duplex that now was turned into.
Yeah.
And we said, well, can we put in an offer? And she said, yes. And the board of directors will consider it. They had operated for 13 years. Yeah. So we put in an offer that simply said, we have no money. If you want to sell it to us for whatever is owing on it, we'll take everything, including the computers, the spoons, the beds, the linens, everything.
Yeah.
And they gave it to us.
Oh, nice.
Even though others offered hundreds of thousands more.
Right.
But it would still be a recovery home. They
stayed true to the cause.
Right.
Of support. Yeah.
So on April 1st of 2003, we are moving into a 10-bedroom home with everything, including a group room in the backyard to have our group counseling. And it was
big upgrade.
Done.
Yeah.
Like within the few months of opening our door, suddenly we have this. It was unbelievable.
Huge.
So on April 1st of 2003, I go next door and I knock on the door and Agnes answers the door. And I said, oh, Agnes Grip.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind. We're going to move 10 addict men next door to you. And she said, well, we'll just love them, won't we?
Nice. Wow.
And there's the home I had visited every month for 18 years.
Okay.
Both of these things started by a phone call from courageous people to a stranger to connect.
Nice. Yeah. The power of the connection, right? There you go.
And within, Agnes was now an elderly person too, and I already knew that she was looking at maybe having to go into a senior home for easier lifestyle. So within a year, she came and said, a few months really,
right?
Would you like to buy my home next door to your other home?
Right.
For expansion.
Yeah,
and I said, well, we don't have any money, but I'll speak to the directors. Well, within a few days, she called me back and said, you know, the Weebs? And I said, yep. And she said, well, they'll buy it from me and you can move in cheap. And whenever you get the money, you can then pay him off.
That's right.
Which we did.
Nice.
So suddenly the year's not out and we now have 2 homes and now there's 20 guys.
Right.
And then I saw in the paper that there was another home that was going to close down that was for street people. Yeah. And so I contacted them because I knew some of the people that ran that society.
Right.
Said, what are you going to do with your home? And they said, well, we don't know, but we're closing down and thinking. And we said, well, would you rent it to us?
Yeah.
And they said, yes, cheap.
Right.
And within a year, we held a barbecue for their board of directors by our guys.
Right.
And they said, we're giving the house to you, clear title.
Nice.
So
amazing. Powerful.
Within a year, we had 3 homes and 30 people in a recovery program.
Okay.
Now, I believe in miracles, but they were just being thrown at us.
Yeah, like just
boom, boom,
door
boom,
open after
boom.
door open. Yeah.
And it's been like that for 23 years. So
good.
That's a long answer, but that's sort of the beginning of the story.
It's great. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And, you know, our listeners, as they're capturing this information of the story and how powerful it is. And, you know, I maybe just let's take a moment to sort of talk a little bit about thinking of guys that are listening here that might not right now in their life have an addiction, right? But, you know, we all know people in our circles, and chances are everybody at some level battles an addiction. It could even be like swiping the phone over all the way down to drugs and alcohol, like the ones that are more prominent. But addiction spans many different aspects in our life, or it could be found in many different areas of our life. And being somebody with such a powerful story like that, and over these decades and years dealing with guys, what advice could you share to the audience listening on how they could be a support? Like, what's the best way of approaching a situation, or if someone approaches them, like either they recognize that they take the initiative, or someone in their circle reaches out like someone did to you in your story? Like, what is it, the advice that you could pass on maybe like that protocol to take to help be that support for somebody?
Rule number 1, I think, in dealing with addictions is be not afraid.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Meaning from my point of view, I think this term addiction and the issue of street people and so on is fearful for a lot of people.
Big time.
I don't know how to deal with this. When I see it on the street, I turn the other way. I walk by. I don't even look at them. And believe me, the people on the street know that they're not even seen.
Correct.
Or treated like they're not worthy of being seen.
They're invisible.
Right.
Yeah. And
they're not invisible at all.
No.
But they feel like they are to society.
Right.
So that's number 1. I think we've got to bring this whole issue of addiction out of the closet and not be afraid of it, or talk about it
100%,
or deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think you need to deal with it carefully, but we need to deal with it.
Yeah.
And recognize it's what it is.
But all these people too have a story to tell within themselves. And the part is like, it's about addressing it before it becomes an issue, right? So all these people, if you were to take them off the street, sit them down for a coffee, there's probably time, you know, they had a mom and dad, they were maybe in a good home or whatever their story. Like they just didn't suddenly land up in the street overnight sometimes.
No, that's for sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like people that are listening, they can play such a powerful role in following a protocol right now and being educated on that, because it can avoid them even needing these things,
right?
Because they get that support right away.
Right. I think addiction's everywhere, and we need to recognize that as rule number two.
Yeah,
it's everywhere. And personally, I think every single person has addiction.
Fair. Yeah. Different degrees. Yeah.
And some of them are socially acceptable.
Yes.
And some of them are not.
Correct.
Socially acceptable ones can be like a workaholic, a perfectionist, an ego addict,
this is great.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks for sharing. Those are good nuances, Tom.
Right.
People don't think about those.
And you know, the business of the addiction of power and the addiction of making money and the addiction of all those things.
These are real.
They're real
100%.
as well. And can be as
destructive,
almost destructive as drugs and alcohol.
Absolutely.
And overeating and over shopping and over whatevering.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
It affects your life. Whatever in your life is not, it is taking you out of balance as to what
I like that.
A good life should be is probably an addiction.
Yeah.
And you have one and I have one, and we can recognize it in ourselves.
100%.
I think everybody should recognize that reality. So if you realize that addictions are everywhere, then maybe we got to start looking at addictions from the point of view of what's behind it all.
Right.
Why is it right here?
Yeah.
And for those who
it serves a purpose, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Like addiction is trying to solve something, right?
It's
there's a
bomb
wound
on a wound.
Right.
So with some people,
I like that, bond on a wound.
Yeah. Because is overpower seeking not trying to overcome your sense of lack of worth? Is drinking for many not a I just need to numb myself a little, because I think most addictions, particularly the drug and alcohol ones, but maybe most, and experts say this, Dr. Gabor Mate being one of them, who's dealt with it for decades and has saying that every addiction comes from pain. So the cure is not the person has to stop drinking, but you need to find the reason why they were or used drugs.
I like that.
You got to
go to the cause.
Why they need the balm on their wound.
Right.
What's the wound?
Yep. Identify
it. If we recognize that and we stop looking at addicts as being weak people who can't make good choices, but rather than start looking at what's behind that.
Yeah.
What is the pain that needs to be dealt with? And this is somebody's son, brother, sister, whatever.
Yeah.
And clearly that person is wounded in some way.
Yeah.
Let's start putting the proper salve on the wounds and not the self.
I think that's a good point, because like I feel some people listening, obviously we all recognize as well, we're not professional counselors. We're not, we don't have that education maybe. Obviously there's going to be a time and place for that individual, yourself or someone in your network that you recognize this and that you're supporting. But I think just sitting back and having the right love or heart or the right heart position towards people, and just come across and realize you don't need to be that. You don't need to be this PhD or have some big long, letters behind your name to make a difference. I think it boils down to what you're saying is like, first we have to have the right attitude and mindset around what we're looking at, and just come from it from a caring place, recognizing there are wounds. Maybe you're not the person to help them unpack that with your training, but you could just recognize the generality that there's wounds and just meet them where they're at and be that support, right? And that's a simple way of thinking about it maybe.
And if the person needs an expert, a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, you can be the person to lead them to that.
That's exactly right, yeah.
If you don't have the gift. But I think everybody has the gift of listening to some level.
Absolutely.
If we'll take it. If we will be open enough and empathetic enough to be a listening ear and saying, okay, buddy, I would suggest maybe you need some help.
Right.
I need help in all kinds of ways, and maybe you need help in this. How can I help you?
Yeah. I like that.
I know somebody who knows something about this. Can I lead you to that person?
Right.
And if you're involved in a men's group, don't be afraid to discuss real stuff.
Exactly.
And open the discussion of what are our struggles. I've been in a men's group since 1981.
Right.
Same guys.
Yeah.
Some of them have died, but same guys still involved in it, and new guys in. So the point of getting together as men, whether it's the Guy Talks or whether it's the groups I'm in, is to be real with one another.
Like that.
And then open to getting together one-on-one and referring them to somebody who can be of help, or maybe it's you.
I think you just addressed something very specific to, I think, the male gender too, is just like, sometimes we only get one layer of the onion. And guys just need to be, hey, you know what? Let's get the 3 or 4 or 5 layers. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay to get deep. And we don't necessarily, even though they're powerful and they're exciting to know, but we don't need to know about your trophies, your accomplishments. Let's find out the meat and potatoes behind the man, right? Who are you? What's your essence? Because I think when you get into those deeper conversations, like you're making note of, wounds become noticeable, and then the support becomes a little bit more tangible, because I think a lot of times we don't get as deep as we need to go. And on that note, let's talk a little bit now, Tom, about, obviously we've heard the story. We've talked a little bit about being proactive. Now, I'm sure there's been some stories, there's long decades of Freedom Door, where you can maybe share a little bit of a few stories of there's when you probably met them a lot in the during section, but when you're talking with them, they probably talked about the before, and then they came through Freedom Store, and then the aftermath. What are some stories that the audience can hear? You shared a little bit about that one gentleman. What are some other ones? You had a nice young man that came up and spoke to the group, and it was very powerful. Maybe you got a few nuggets or something that really has made an impact on you and others, and maybe share a little bit about those stories, perhaps.
Yeah. I've talked with hundreds of guys, and true to all of them, virtually, was a pain at childhood of some kind. Right. I'll tell you the story about Abe. It's not his real name, but I'll use Abe because that's the name I used in my book. Yeah. So Abe was born into a teenage family wherein his father died in a motorcycle accident 2 weeks before he was born. Okay. So he's born to a grieving teenager who was ill-equipped to be able to deal with a little boy. And her method of surviving in her poverty was to become a drug dealer. And so she's raising a child without any real skills or knowledge or ability. And she is seeking her own solace in the drugs that she's selling to others. She's seeking solace in many men coming in and out the door. And this little boy is a noisy runaround nuisance. And so Abe was locked away in closets while the parties would go on. He always lived in fear. At one point, one of the boyfriends in his stone scenario got so tired of the little boy yelling and running around, he grabbed him by the neck and held Abe up against the wall as he's flailing around. And fortunately, at that point, the grandfather came in and saw what was going on and put an end to it and took him away. For 3 days. And then he was returned back to the same old scenario. So Abe grew up in poverty and
lots of abuse, but it looks like
that's abuse. Yeah, and he would have to go next door to somebody who had kids a little bigger than him in order to get clothes because he never got any bought for him. He was bullied at school. At age 11, he realized, okay, if I'm going to have anything, my mom deals, I guess I will too. So he's dealing. The mother reports him, and he gets taken away to a youth detention center at age 11. And the mother's still at home dealing, and he's returned a year later, and at age 12, he's raped by one of his mother's friends on the couch in their home. He then realizes he can't trust anybody. He's living on the street, and he lived on the street until, well, throughout all of his teen years. He got beaten by a gang with rocks in socks and beat him up badly. He had brain injury, his face had needed reconstruction, et cetera, et cetera. It's a long and ugly story. Definitely. It's not an unusual one. I got to tell you.
This is not like the one-off story.
No, this isn't one-off.
Sadly,
this is too regular. And so, I mean, how do you think people get to the street?
Exactly. You don't know.
This way. You know?
Through lots of trauma, lots of abuse.
A lot of stuff. going to the street is better than being at home. And that kind of
and that's
scenario.
hard. And I think people listening might find that like a tough reality to hear. It's easier. Like you don't think to yourself, you see those, you're like, how could that be?
Right.
Right. But it is. In those stories, it is. Yeah.
It is. And it's common. And so his grandparents of the father got a hold of him. They didn't live where he lived on the island.
Right.
And said, I've heard about this place. I want you to go. I'm going to get you a bus ticket. And it was Freedom's Door in Kelowna.
Right. Okay.
So he took the bus ticket and he left the only town he knew, living under bridges, whatever he could do.
Right.
And came to Kelowna and got into Freedom's Door at age 23.
Okay. And he's already lived a lot of life.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of
life has been on the street.
Yeah.
And the other half wasn't any
really
good.
Fast. Yeah.
So he comes into Freedom's Door. He doesn't trust anybody. He's got a brain injury.
Okay.
So he had some brain injury struggles. And I got to know him really quite well and quite intimately and developed a trust with him.
Right.
It took a while for him to break down all the barriers of you don't trust anybody, particularly adults, because they do you harm.
Exactly.
And we became close, and he joined one of the men's groups, small group of like 4, 5, 6 guys within Freedom's Door who all were attendees or graduates.
Right.
And we would meet together independently. See, he became a part of something.
Yes.
And
purpose.
Yeah. And he he suddenly belonged and was loved.
Yes.
I think for the first time in his life.
Huge.
And we did love him when we said so.
Yeah.
And it was very much, he went through the recovery program. He, after about a year, he moved into a group home and he had some support systems.
Yes.
He joined a church.
Okay.
And they loved him.
Right.
And he was absolutely thrilled to be welcomed into the family of the church.
Right.
On an Easter Sunday.
Right.
And was beaming in delight over what he had.
Right.
And he told me that the past year was the best year of his life ever.
Right.
So I picked him up one Sunday, took him to church about 2 weeks after Easter, where he had joined the church.
Yeah.
And took him to church and then dropped him off. And as I always did with him, I'd say, hey, bye, I love you, buddy. And he said, I love you too. And we'd give a hug and he would go in. And so the next day, he gets up in the group home, has his shower, singing Amazing Grace at the top of his lungs, as he did every morning in the shower.
Okay, yeah.
And he gets out and he goes to get dressed. And then I got a call from one of his caregivers saying, I was at a meeting with Abe today, but he didn't show up. And so I got a little concerned. So I called the owner of it and said, would you please go and check, because his door's locked and he's not responding. And Abe was dead.
Okay. Yeah, it's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very heavy.
He died of a brain aneurysm as a result of the beating he took at age 17.
Wow.
Finally burst.
Yeah.
But I look at that. It's not an unusual story, sadly.
But I think what's so precious about your story is like, he got to actually experience love and care and grace, where if it wasn't for, Freedom's Door, but he would have maybe left not knowing that, right? Where that did happen. So that part's the blessing, but that's a devastating story.
The aneurysm was coming one way or the other.
Right.
He had a year of healing and love and caring and belonging.
Right.
And knowing his creator.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there was about 250 people at his funeral.
Right.
There were 5 pastors at the altar. He was celebrated.
Yes, and we're talking about him here.
Rightly so.
And his story is still continuing just right here in this conversation. Real. Yeah, it's very real.
Yeah. And his grandparents were at that funeral.
Okay.
The ones who directed them to Freedom's Door.
Right.
And
powerful story.
That is addiction coming from pain.
Right.
not an untypical story of exactly that.
No, I think there's many of these. And, you know, as I'm listening and, you know, as we're out there supporting, I think this level of care that we need to have more of in our hearts and for people in our circles, the care factor, the love factor, the curiosity, and in many ways, the grace. You know, you don't know what you don't know. You see something, but you don't know what you don't know. You don't know all the background stories like you're sharing with us, and that sense of grace of just helping people along their journeys. Now, maybe tell us about like what are the statistics around this? Like, what are some of the you know, compelling stats around addiction and with guys and what's going on around that, so people can understand maybe the numbers per se.
Right. I've got some numbers right here,
Sure.
and I'm going to pull it out and make it fast and simple. And these statistics come from the Canadian Mental Health Association, a recent study that was done. And this is dealing with youth in particular, and a study as to what's going on with the youth in Canada. And the statistics show that 1 in 5, 20% of our youth in British Columbia and across the whole country, the average remains true across the country, teenagers, 20% need mental health and or substance abuse services. 20% of them.
Right.
So we're talking approximately 6 teens in every classroom of every high school across this country.
Right.
Needs assistance with mental health and or addiction issues.
Right.
And of those 20%, only about a quarter of them get any service of any kind or any assistance of any kind.
Big need.
Big need. Suicide is the leading cause of death of young people behind auto accidents.
Unbelievable.
The third one would be death and addiction overdose.
Right.
75% of mental illness begins before the age of 25. So the beginning of mental health is usually in youth.
Right.
And youth mental illness is the second largest medical cost in Canada.
Unreal. Yeah.
Very
real. Big. It's very big.
So what we're talking about when we're dealing with mental health issues and addiction issues,
right,
which are often very linked.
Yeah, very much so.
75 to 80%, maybe 85% of the people who are living on the streets in Kelowna are struggling with mental health issues.
Right.
And addiction issues.
Right.
So there's absolutely a link between what's going on in the street and what's started in youth.
Yes.
And if we then take a look at what's going on on the street, in 2015, there were 135,000 people living on the streets of Canada.
Right.
Now, you would think that number is bad enough.
Right.
But in 2025, only 10 years later, the number of people living on the streets of Canada is now over 250,000 people.
Astronomical.
250,000 people on the streets of Canada right now.
Wow.
And we witness it in Kelowna.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every
we
other
all know
town
about it.
and city in the country.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And of course, most of those people are mentally challenged, and most of them have got addiction issues. And no wonder, wouldn't you want a bomb in the wounds if you were living in a tent in minus 20, 30, 40 degrees?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you need something.
You need support.
To just numb yourself
100%.
is what's happening. And if 85% of the people on the streets have mental health or addiction issues, and clearly poverty issues, what are we as a society doing about it?
Right.
And the problem is too little and not of the right kind.
Right.
Combo.
Yeah, it's a few things.
There were 208 deaths per month in British Columbia in 2003.
Massive.
And 187 in 2024.
Okay.
Per month.
Right.
80% of the people in jail are there due to addictions. Sure. That's 115 to 125,000 per person per year.
Right.
Because they have an addiction issue.
Yeah.
And they don't have recovery programs in jails.
No, we got to take a more proactive approach rather than a reactive. You know, there's causes to address. Yeah.
When they get out of jail, 75% of them go back in quickly.
Yeah, because we're not solving any problems. No. We're just putting them in a cage.
And 12 people a day die from suicide in Canada.
Devastating.
So all of these things are connected, but unfortunately, we as a society don't seem to be connecting the dots well enough.
Fair enough.
And there is way too few detox centers in British Columbia and Canada, and way too few recovery homes.
100%.
And they're not well funded.
No.
What's being funded is the harm reduction. You can stay wet, and we'll give you drugs, and we'll give you places to use it, and
Band-Aids.
so on. But there doesn't seem to be a belief that people can actually recover.
Right.
Because why would you leave them in a wet facility when there's a possibility of recovering?
Yeah, like
Isn't that healthcare?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we got to really get behind it, don't we?
And the money isn't going to recovery. It's going to the status quo.
Yeah, the Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, I appreciate your time, Tom. It's been really great to have you here, and everything that you and your team have done over these years and decades, and still pushing forward. And anybody who's listening here can reach out to Freedom Store, reach out to you if they want to, they're listening here and they're kind of surprised, and maybe they have a way of support or helping. They can reach out to Freedom Store and help, address more of the solution orientated work you're doing versus the Band-Aid. Like, you're trying to get guys in a difficult place, rock bottom as we call, to get them back to functional citizens, contributing to the world in the right way. Because you know what? They do got to deal with those wounds. They got to go through that process, and you guys are putting programs and things in place for that to occur, for real change to happen in these men's lives. And that's powerful.
Yeah. Most families, or of families where addiction and our mental health is a struggle.
Of course.
You can do something about that.
That's right.
You now know about Freedom Store in our town, and there are others in other towns where if you know that somebody's struggling, reach out to say, I've got a solution for your son.
Yes.
You may want to send your son and just sit down and have a meeting with somebody at Freedom Store.
Take action.
And see what can what can happen.
Right.
Get informed, get involved.
Yes.
Allow an answer to be shared.
Yes.
And we can all do that.
We can all do that, right? Yeah. Connect, grow, and thrive. Like, make that happen. That's the key. And as we close here, again, thank you, Tom, very much. I want to address, as we know, each month, our next one, this is our last one. We did addiction, and we always want to sit here. We want to also thank the house for helping us here with the production. But in addition, let's get excited about the next event that's coming, which is October 30th. It's going to be at Sandhill Winery, and we're going to be talking about adventure. And we got Lawrence East. This guy has been in the Alps. He's traveled deserts. He's done amazing adventures. I think it's important for anybody, but in this case for guys, you know what? We work hard, but it's also okay to play hard, get out there, enjoy life, have the adventure of a lifetime by checking out this beautiful world that we're in. And Lawrence East is going to bring it home for us. He's going to tell some amazing, adventure stories, and inspire us to get out there and just have that adventure that's deep inside. I think guys like to get out there and play and have some fun. So I'm really excited about that. Bring a brother, tell everybody about it. You can go on Eventbrite, look up October 30th, Adventure Guy Talks. That's how you can find it. The tickets are free. And again, the Cott Auto Group is providing some food for us. It's going to be a great time. It was amazing when we did the talk on addiction. So thank you again, Tom, for being with us.
Yeah,
I appreciate your time, and thanks for bringing a little more awareness on addiction. If you want to have a quick closing remark before we close.
Yeah, well, number one, I know Lawrence East. He's come to Freedom Store and been a help to us.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Cool. So, good guy. I recommend you come to the next one and listen to what he has to say.
Right on.
Closing remarks. Check out Freedom Store, www.freedomstorekelowna.com, and get informed and maybe become a part of in some way. Maybe become a part of because you have some issues that you need to deal with yourself, or you need to be informed because your family has them or your friends. Well, you be the catalyst. You be the leader that makes that phone call that takes courage to make. But look what happens when you do. So thank you.
So thanks, everybody. Until next time, Guy Talks, connect, grow, and thrive. Have an amazing rest of your week and enjoy October. We'll see you on the 30th. Take care. Bye for now.